Ohio. Austria, the state in Central Europe. The population makes 8.46 million people, the territory -83879 km. Also the 112th in territory, takes the 94th place in the world on population. The capital, Vienna. A state language, German. Federal state, parliamentary republic. Since October 9, 2021, the acting as the federal chancellor is Alexander Schallenberg. It is subdivided into 9 federal lands: Burgenland, Carinthia, Lower Austria, Upper Austria, Salzburg, Tyrol, Styria, Vorarlberg, Vienna. In the north borders on the Czech Republic, 362 km. In the northeast on Slovakia, 91 km. In the east on Hungary, 366 km. In the south on Slovenia, 330 km. And Italy, 430 km. In the west on Liechtenstein, 35 km. And Switzerland, 164 km. In the northwest on Germany, 784 km. About 74% of the population Catholics. The post-industrial country with dynamically developing economy. The DD volume at par of purchasing power for 2017 was $441 billion. About $5,000 per capita. Monetary unit Euro. Member of the United Nations, European Union. In 1955 I proclaimed a constant neutrality and non-alignment to any military blocs. The name of the country comes from Old German Österreich, East State. The name Austria is for the first time mentioned in the document of November 1, 996. The Austrian flag is one of the most ancient state symbols in the world. According to the legend, in 1191, during one of fights of the Third Crusade, the snow-white shirt of Leopold V was completely splashed with blood. When the Duke took off from himself a white belt, on a shirt the white strip was formed. The combination of these flowers became his banner, and in the future a flag of the Republic of Austria. In honor of Austria, the asteroid 136. Austria opened on March 18, 1874 by the Austrian astronomer Johann Palaiseau in Austro-Hungarian Sea Observatory, and the bullet is called the Earth of modern Austria were won by Romans from Celts in the 15th year BB. In the 6th-8th centuries the territory of future Tyrol is occupied by the German nationality of Bavar. Territories of future Austria, Styria and Carinthia Slavs borrow. In 788 it is won by Franks. In 803 the Bavarian Brand was created. In 976 it was renamed into East Brand. From the moment of the emergence, Austria, Styria, Carinthia and Tyrol were absolute monarchies. In 1156, during board of a dynasty, Babenberg of Austria is allocated from structure of Bavaria to the independent duchy, which in 1276 passed Gabsbergam. Since 1438 Dukes of Austria were elected mainly emperors of the Sacred Roman Empire. In 1453, by this time they already were in the personal union. The Duke of Austria received the Archduke's title. In 1526 the Czech Republic and Croatia were annexed to Austria. As a result of the Silesian Wars, the country lost Silesia. At the end of the 18th century, as a result of partitions of Poland, Galicia, Small Poland and the southern Mazovia were annexed to Austria as the Western Galicia. In 1687 Hungary was included in the union with Austria. As a result of wars with France, in 1806 the Archduke of Austria lost a title of the Emperor of the Sacred Roman Empire, but received a title of the Emperor of Austria, and since 1815 after creation of the German Union emperors of Austria were its presidents, the country lost the southern Mazovia, but received Lombardy and Veneto. In 1859 as a result of defeat in the Austro-Italo-Francesco War she lost Lombardy and Veneto, and in 1866 as a result of defeat of Austria in Austro-Prussian War the German Union dissolved itself. In 1867 the Austrian Emperor issued the constitution proclaiming Austria the constitutional dualistic qualification monarchy, the Imperial Council consisting of the House of Lords consisting of the titled nobility, and the House of Representatives elected by electors on the basis of property qualification on a majority system in 2 rounds, the head of state, the hereditary emperor. Executive body, the ministry appointed the emperor and bearing before him responsibility became legislature. The Christian and Social Party became the most influential party. At the beginning of the 20th century on elections to the House of Representatives universal suffrage was entered, the Christian and Social Party kept the influence, but level with her there was a Social Democratic Party of Austria. On November 11, 1918 the Kaiser of Austria and the King of Hungary Charles I declared the withdrawal from reign over Austria. On November 12, 1918 abolished the monarchy and the House of Lords, proclaimed the Empire the Republic. The German Austria became a part of the German Empire that automatically entailed a rupture of the Austro-Hungarian Union and elimination of Austria-Hungary.
On the same day adopted the law on the state form and the form of government of the German Austria, according to which for adoption of the constitution elections to the Constitutional National Assembly were appointed, and before his convocation by temporary legislature there was a temporary National Assembly into which all members of the Riksrat of Convocation of 1911, the elite from the German part of Austria entered.
The State Council headed by the Staatschancellor, the Social Democrat Karl Renner became temporary executive body.
On November 13, 1918 Charles I declared the withdrawal from reign over Hungary. On November 16, 1918 the state meeting abolished the monarchy and proclaimed the Kingdom Hungary the Hungarian People's Republic. The rupture of the Austro-Hungarian Union was recognized by Hungary.
On November 14 members of the Riksrat from the districts of Bohemia, Moravia and Silesia occupied by Czechs formed the Czechoslovak Revolutionary National Assembly which proclaimed the Czechoslovak Republic.
On February 16, 1919 there took place elections to the Constitutional National Assembly on which first place was received by the Social Democratic Workers' Party of Austria, the second place with a small gap, Christian and Social Party.
On March 14 it adopted laws on national representation and on the state government according to which the Constitutional National Assembly, executive body, the state government became legislature.
On September 10, 1919 the Saint-Germainski Peace Treaty was signed, reunion with Germany was forbidden to Austria, she recognized independence of Czechoslovakia and Hungary. Areas de Lower Styria, Slavonia, Dalmatia and Croatia were transferred to the Kingdom of Serbians, Croats and Slovenes, Transylvania and Bukovina, Romania. On October 21, 1919 it was ratified by the Constitutional National Assembly having changed the name of the state on the Republic Austria.
On October 10, 1920 it adopted the federal constitutional law which was proclaiming Austria the Federal Democratic Parliamentary Republic, founded Federal Assembly as the legislature consisting of Federal Council and National Council, the federal government and positions of the Federal President, the Federal Chancellor, Federal Ministers. On March 4, 1933 the Federal Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss dismissed Federal Assembly and in a year issued the so-called May Constitution, which abolished them. It replaced national representation. Corporate legislature was the Federal Diet, which 20 members were appointed by the State Council, which, in turn, was formed by the Federal President. 10. The Federal Economic Council, created by labor unions and the commerce and industry unions. 10. The Federal Cultural Council, created by the creative unions. 9. Council of Lands, into which on a position territorial captains entered. The federal government remained executive body, the head of state, the federal president. In 1938 there was an Anschluss, annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany. Federal lands were transformed to a Reichsgabe Vienna, the top Danube, the lower Danube, Carinthia, Salzburg, Styria, Tyrol, Vorburg, operated by the deputies appointed by the Reichschancellor of Germany. The plebiscite held in Austria in April 1938 confirmed accession of Austria to Germany. Most of the Austrian Germans dreamed of revival of Great Germany long ago. In the territory of Austria in the years of domination of Nazis, several tens of concentration camps, including the notorious extermination camp Mauthausen, were created. I had in the country of 49 branches, the General D. Karbyshev was tortured here.
In 1992 the Federal Chancellor of Austria Franz Ranitzky recognized that thousands of the Austrians took part in crimes of the Nazi regime.
The population of Austria made only 8% of population of Germany, but their quantity in troops of CC was 13%, among the serving concentration camps -40 there is 8%. Among residents of Austria there were also those someone hated fascism and the action sought to accelerate crash of this system. In April 1945 troops of the countries of the anti-Hitlerite coalition expelled Wehrmacht from Austria, fascist deputies were displaced, the power was delegated to the provisional land governments. In some lands they were called interim land committees, consisting of opponents of fascism. On April 27, 1945 the provisional state government from Social Democrats, Communists, entered till 1947.
And Christian Socialists, headed by the Staatschancellor Social Democrat Karl Renner, was created at the nationwide level. Process of a denazification for control of which the country was occupied by troops of 4 member states of the anti-Hitlerite coalition began and is divided into 4 zones of occupation:
Soviet, British, American and French.
On July 4, 1945, for implementation of direct control of a denazification, the Intralite Control Commission across Austria, consisting of representatives of the occupying parties, was created.
In September 1945 political parties, the largest of which were a Socialist Party of Austria, the Austrian People's Party, the Communist Party of Austria and Democratic Party, were resolved. On November 25, 1945 elections to National Council were held. In the fall of 1945 the Federal Constitutional Law of 1919 was restored. Negotiations on signing a peace treaty began in 1947, but he was imprisoned only on May 15, 1955 as, when later for many years Allied occupation it became clear that the competition between the West and the USSR for Austria will bring nobody an unambiguous victory. In the Austrian political circles interest in a neutrality once again woke up.
The military-political equidistance of Vienna could become an acceptable formula for the solution of a question of withdrawal of the Western and Soviet occupational troops.
In October of the same year, the law on a constant neutrality of Austria, which it observed still, was adopted. On October 25, all Allied troops from the territory of Austria were disengaged.
Times of Cold War brought diplomatic popularity of Austria, her capital of Vienna. Here representative offices of the largest international organizations, including the Union, located.
Successfully post-war national economy developed. The state in Central Europe. The area of the country is km. Austria for 70%. The highland, average height above sea level, makes about 900 m.
The most part is occupied with East Alps, which are in turn subdivided into Alpi of Northern Tyrol and Salzburg by Alpi in the north, Zillertalsky and Karnisai Alpi in the south.
The highest point, Mount Grossglockner, 3797 m. On her is also one of the glaciers, largest in Europe, to Pasterza. The lowest point, the Lake Neusiedler See, 115 m above sea level. Austria has moderate, transitional to continental, the climate which is strongly depending on height. The summer is warm solar, average temperature is +20 C. In process of rise up, temperature can reach a 0 point at night.
The winter soft in plains and cold in mountains, temperature on plains falls to
2 C, and in the mountain area to 14 C. Rainfall varies from 500 to 300 mm a year, depending on height in a relief. Austria is the federal state uniting 9 independent lands. The existing constitution is adopted in 1920 and again entered in 1945. The head of state is the federal president, elected for 6 years. The executive body, the federal government consisting of the federal chancellor and federal ministers, is appointed by the federal president and bears responsibility to Federal Assembly. Parliament of Austria, two-chamber Federal Assembly which consists of Federal Council and National Council. Territorially is located in Vienna. The parliament can be dismissed by either the decree of the president, or expression of a vote of no confidence by the lower house of parliament. The Federal Council consisting of 62 deputies elected by Landtage, parliaments of lands. Lands are presented by the different number of deputies, from 3 to 12, depending on population. Term of office of the deputy of the Bundesrat, 4 or 6 years depending on a term of office of the Landtag which elected them. The National Council consisting of 183 deputies elected on a proportional and list system. Term of office, 5 years. The Constitutional Court of Austria, the first ever separate constitutional court, 1920. It is formed by the President on representation of the government in both chambers. Has also powers to solve a dispute between lands, lands and the federal center, and also to take out an impeachment to the highest officials. The highest judicial authority. The Supreme Court of Justice, courts of the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Land Courts, courts of first instance. Land courts, the lowest link of the judicial system. District Courts, Court of Administrative Justice. Administrative Court of Justice. Since 2008 there is also a court for refugees, and in 2014 there began work the Federal Administrative Court, Land Administrative Courts and Federal Financial Court. Bodies of Prosecutor's Office. The Prosecutor General's Office at the level of the Supreme Court, the highest prosecutors at the level of the Supreme Land Courts, and prosecutors, bodies for fight against corruption.
Federal management according to prevention of corruption and fight against corruption as a part of the Federal Ministry of Internal Affairs, both Economic and Corruption Prosecutor's Office.
Since October 26, 1955 the foreign policy is built taking into account the international legal status of a constant neutrality. The neutrality allowed to expand foreign policy opportunities of this country and space for maneuver. During Cold War neutral Austria played a bridge role between the West and the East. Though the neutrality thought on a sample Swiss, in practice he gained own development.
During rule of the Chancellor Bruno Kreisky it was a basis of almost pacifistic foreign policy of Vienna.
Since the end of the 1980th years the neutrality began to be adapted to new international conditions. In 1995 Austria became the member of the European Union.
Our foreign policy began to lose independence and to be dissolved even more often in the general course of the EU. In the late 90s many Austrian politicians asked about cancellation of neutrality and expediency of membership of the country in NATO. However, the population of the country and opposition parties were to these ideas skeptic.
Official Vienna recognizes that the neutrality shouldn't be the stiffened institute, and is subject to adaptation to the changing conditions. Nevertheless, as before, the federal constitutional law on neutrality is the current law. According to his norms, the country can't take part in any wars, won't allow presence of any foreign troops in the territory, won't enter in any military contract.
Austria is one of leaders among EU countries in quality of life.
Her share in industrial production of the European Union makes 2.5%.
Transformation of the EU into the system of supranational institutes led to the fact that the Austrian Parliament and institutes of social partnership were lost by a part of the functions as they were transferred to Brussels.
The foreign policy is pursued within the European consensus. In 2009-2010 Austria took the place of the changeable representative in the Union Security Council. Total number of armed forces about 49,000 people. 2004. Consist of ground forces and the air force. Armed forces are headed by the General Inspector who submits to the Minister of National Defense. The civilian, the representative of ruling party. In wartime the President is the Supreme Commander. In the country of 9 military districts which are territorially coinciding with administrative division. Completing of armed forces is carried out on the basis of the law on a general compulsory military service and on hiring.
Military age
18 years on hiring.
Duration of conscription service since 2007, 6 months, after which persons liable for call up to 50-year age are attracted for participation in military exercises according to the plan of the Ministry of Defense.
No more than 60 days.
Total number of the persons liable for call up suitable for military service, 1.9 million people.
2004. Defense expenditure near 2005. 1.5 billion US. 0.9% of GDP. Austria is divided into 9 federal lands, one of which, Vienna, is the capital city. Legislature of lands, land meetings, chosen by the population, executive bodies of lands, the land governments consisting of land governors and land advisors, elected by a land meeting. Administrative bodies of districts, the district governorships headed by district governors appointed by the government. Representative bodies of the cities, the communal councils elected by the population, executive bodies of the cities, the city councils. The statutory cities and the capital, the senates. Consisting of the burgomaster and city advisors, elected by communal council, administrative bodies of the statutory cities, magistrates, headed by the director of magistrate, appointed by the government. Representative bodies of communities, the communal councils. In Vorarlberg and Salzburg, communal representations. Elected by the population, executive bodies of communities, the communal boards consisting of the burgomaster and communal advisors, elected by communal councils. Representative bodies of city districts, the district representations elected by the population, executive bodies of districts, the district administrations consisting of district heads and district advisors, elected by district representations. Population of 8,894,380 people. 2019. According to data of the World Factbook, the ethnic structure of the population of Austria over the countries of the birth as of 2018. Austria -80. 8%, Germany -2.6%, Bosnia and Herzegovina -1.9%, Turkey -1.8%, Serbia -1.6%, Romania -1.3%, other countries of 10%. According to data of the World Factbook, the language structure of the population of Austria as of 2001. German, an official state language, -88.6%, Turkish -2.3%, Serbian -2.2%, Croatian. Official in Burgenland, -1. 6% others. Including Slovenian, official in the southern Carinthia, and Hungarian, official in Burgenland, -5.3%. According to a census of 2006, the largest ethnic group, the German-speaking Austrians, makes 88.6% of the population of the country. The main official language, German. Spoken and official language of the Austrians significantly differs from official German of Germany. See German in Austria, the Austrian option of German. Colloquial Austrian dialects are close to the Bavarian dialect of Germany and German of Switzerland. Vorarlberg. Besides, there are 6 recognized ethnic minorities: Croats, Slovenes, Czechs, Slovaks, Hungarians, Roma. App. Only 300,000 people. Slovenes, Croats and Hungarians live in the certain areas of Styria, Carinthia and Burgenland, and in Vienna Czechs and Jews are added to them. Many Austrian citizens consider themselves not only the Austrians, but, by origin from this side of the earth, also Shatrites, Tyroleans, etc. In 2015, card people were immigrants 1 and 2 generations.
Generally, it is natives of the former Yugoslavia over
0.5 million people. And a half Serbians. Up to 300,000 Turks and Kurds. Among the others. Romanians -80,000, Poles -70,000, Italians, Russians, Albanians, Bulgarians and other.
As of 2019, 1.8 million immigrants, making 19.9% of the population of the country, lived in Austria. According to data of the World Factbook, the structure of the population of Austria on religion as of 2018.
Catholics -57%, Orthodox -8%. 7%, Muslims -7.9%. Assessment of 2016. Evangelical Christians -3.3%, others/atheists -23.1%. Estimates of 2012-2018. According to a census of 2001, 73.6% of the Austrians, Catholics, 4.7%, Lutherans, 6.5% of the population belong to other religious faiths. Islam -4.2%, Orthodox Church -2.2%, Judaism -0.1%. In total 12 faiths are registered, including 3,000 Sikhs. 2009. 12% of the population don't carry themselves to one of faiths. In 1991 there were only 8.6%. The Christianity is included in the general education school program and is an obligatory subject. The largest religious organization of Austria, the Roman Catholic Church. The state supports church. In the country there is 1% the church tax which all citizens of the country are obliged to pay. The citizen is exempted from payment of a tax according to the written statement about refusal of Catholicism. The Roman Catholic Church in 2000 had adherents 72.1% of the population. Catholicism is presented by dioceses united in the Conference of Catholic Bishops of Austria. The Church Province of Vienna consisting from Archdioceses of Vienna, Dioceses of Eisenstadt, Dioceses of Linz, Dioceses of St. Pölten. The Church Province of Salzburg consisting from Archdioceses of Salzburg, Diocese of Feldkirch, Dioceses Graseka, Diocese of Gurka, Dioceses of Innsbruck. Military Ordinariate Austria. Ordinariate for Greek Catholic in Austria. 5,000 Greek Catholic. 2000. There is also Old Catholic Church of Austria which 4 communities act in Vienna, 1 in Kremse, 1 in Graz, 1 in Linz, 1 in Ried, 1 Klagenfurt, 1 in Salzburg, 1 in Innsbruck. The Evangelic Church of the Augsburg and Helvetsky Confession of Austria unites Lutherans and Calvinists. The Mennonite Free Church of Austria unites most of Mennonites. 8 communities of Mennonites with 360 believers. The Union of the Baptist Communities of Austria unites most of Baptists. 19 communities of Baptists with 1130 active adherents. 2000. Total number of Baptists is 1. 5, 2 times more. The Austrian Union of Seventh-day Adventist Church. 47 communities of Seventh-day Adventist Church with 3,596 believers. The Free Christian Community, the Pentecostal community of Austria, unites most of Pentecostals. About a half of Pentecostals of Austria. 17,000. Aren't citizens of this country and visit emigrant communities. First of all Romanian and also Philippine, Brazilian, Nigerian, Korean, etc. Orthodoxy is presented.
According to own data of the relevant organizations in Austria, there are 299 communities Jehovah's Witnesses, with 33099 attended their meetings of witnesses in 1999.
From them we are baptized on a ceremony Jehovah's Witnesses 20577. 3889 Mormons. 2000. Austria, the advanced post-industrial state. The country is among the most developed states of Europe. The DD per capita in 2002 was 24,700 euros. In the prices of 1995. This indicator constantly grows. In 1990 it equaled 20.1 thousand, in 1995 21.4 thousand euros. And at the current prices and at par consumer ability in 2001, $28.2 thousand. At an average across the EU of 25.5 thousand. Thereby Austria advanced Sweden, Great Britain, Italy, France, Germany, and conceded only to Denmark, the Netherlands, Ireland and Luxembourg. On a condition of 2017 the average amount of compensation in Austria is 2688 euros. Gross. And 1848 euros, net. In a month. The monetary unit euro. It changed euro cent. Till 2002 the Austrian shilling. It changed the Austrian penny. Issue carries out the National Bank of Austria. In Austria 9 land energy companies, Wien Energie, Energievergang Niederösterreich, Energie AG Oberösterreich, Burgenlandische Elektrizitätsgesellschaft, Kärntner Elektrizitätsgesellschaft, Energie Steiermark, Salzburg AG für Energie, Verkehr und Telekommunikation, Tiroler Wasserkraft AG and Vorarlberger Kraftwerk. The largest oil company, the state equity stakes in the industry Oil. The operator of rail transportation, the Austrian Federal Railroad. Extent of the railroads is over 600 km. The operator of long-distance bus transportations, Bundesbus. The operator of air transportation, Austrian Airlines. The airports exist in Vienna, Graz, Linz, Innsbruck and Salzburg. The tram exists in Vienna, Gandina, Graz, Innsbruck, Linz. The tram system existing in Salzburg is closed. Provider of a mail service, Österreichische Post, the largest provider of telephone communication and the Internet, Telekom Austria. Advantages. Broad production base. Strong industry. Chemical and petrochemical, electrical equipment, textile industry, woodworking. The qualified labor. Tourism, an important source of attraction of financial resources from abroad. Weaknesses. Dependence on the imported raw materials, first of all oil and gas. Delay in transition to competition strengthening. DDD volume in the current prices in 2010 was €284 billion. DDD per capita was euros in 2010. Production of DDD on one occupied in 2010. Labor productivity minus €77.6 thousand. The Austrian economy differs in rather low rate of inflation. In 2002, 1.8%. And unemployment in 2000, 7% of number of able-bodied population, in 2002, 4.3%.
Consumer Price Index in 2002 by 1996 was 108.8, whereas in the EU in general minus 110.8.
About 2.2% of GDP are produced in rural and forestry, 32.3% in the industry, power economy and construction, 65.5% in services sector, trade, on transport and in communication, in a banking and insurance system. The 1/3 part of industrial output is the share of public sector of economy. Nevertheless, in the Austrian economy there is a number of the problems connected with the European integration.
The special concern causes the agro-industrial sector in connection with the new conditions of competition dictated by the countries of Uniform Europe.
The policy of the prices and quoting of the EU promotes painful transformation of agriculture that causes more and more tough counteraction from the Austrian farmers.
As a result of a course of Austria with an uniform agricultural policy of the EU, unprofitable were 69% of all agricultural grounds. The total amount of the saved-up direct foreign investments in Austria as of the end of 2001 was estimated at €24 billion.
From them about 45% are the share of Germany, 28% of other EU countries, 12% to Switzerland and Liechtenstein, 7% to the USA and Canada and 8% of the other countries.
Attracting foreign investments and cooperating with foreign partners, the Austrian companies formed the major technological industries which were practically absent in national economy.
The telecommunication equipment. In all large cities of the country there are theaters. The Vienna State Opera was opened on May 25, 1869. G. Mahler R. Strauss K. Weim G. Von Karajan directed it. During the whole year in various cities of Austria. First of all in Vienna and Salzburg. There take place musical festivals. Other known theaters of Vienna. Burgtheater and Volksbühne. The most known museums of the country. Cultural and historical. Vienna. Art and historical, natural historical, historical museums of Vienna, Museum Albertina.
The Haus museums connected with life and activity of great people are numerous. W.
Mozart 50. Beethoven J. Haydn F.
Schubert 1.
Strauss 1. Hellman. The main national holiday on October 26, day of adoption of law on a constant neutrality. 1955.
The legislative basis of primary and secondary education in Austria is defined in 1962.
The Federal Ministry of Education is responsible for financing and control over initial, average and, since 2000, the higher education.
Management of primary and secondary education is carried out at the level of appropriate authorities of lands.
Kindergartens in the majority of lands free. Parents can send children at will to this establishment aged from 3 up to 6 years. The maximum number of group is about 30 people, each group usually is on care of one qualified tutor and one assistant. Primary education lasts for 4 years since 6 years.
As a rule, during this time the class is conducted by one teacher to develop stable communication between the teacher and the pupil, which is considered important for children's well-being.
Lessons begin at 8 in the morning and last in the forenoon with hourly 5 or 10-minute breaks. At school, children daily receive homework. Public school education in Austria is free, also obligatory. Main school. 2 steps to the 9th class.
Then the higher high schools offer students various programs of professional education and university training courses, additional 4 years of training.
The universities possess high degree of freedom and offer a wide choice of educational programs. Training at the universities was free till 2001. This year accreditation of the private universities began. The largest universities. Vienna. The oldest university of Austria is founded in 1367. The Vienna Economic University, the Grazzi, Innsbruck, Salzburg universities. Since 2009, training at the state universities for non-resident citizens of the EU paid. According to the law on the higher education of September 24, 2008, the following tariffs for training at the state universities work. Training cost in a semester. Euro 363. 36 for citizens of the third countries of Euro 726.72 for 2021. Contributions to the students' organization Euro 20.20 for 2021. Students with the long-term visa and the students of the University of Vienna who are citizens of Azerbaijan, Armenia, Belarus, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Moldova, Tajikistan, Ukraine and Uzbekistan are exempted from payment. Austria presented to the world a large number of the famous scientists, among whom there are known minds of the 19th century: Ludwig Boltzmann, Ernst Mach, Victor Franz Hess and Christian Doppler. In 1920, the 1930th years Lisa Meitner, Erwin Schrödinger and Wolfgang Pauli's contribution became key in development of atomic physics and quantum mechanics. The modern physicist Anton Zeilinger was the first someone managed to realize the effect of quantum teleportation. Except physicists, in the country 2 largest philosophers of the 20th century, Ludwig Wittgenstein and Karl Popper, were born. Biologists Gregor Mendel and Konrad Lorenz, the mathematician Kurt Gödel, designers Ferdinand Porsche and Siegfried Marcus were also the Austrians. Starting with the famous medieval scientist Paracelsus, the main directions of researches of the Austrian scientists were medicine and, since the 19th century, also psychology. Such outstanding doctors as Theodor Billroth, Clemens Perk and Anton Eiselsberg were representatives of the Vienna Medical School in the 19th century.
The Austrian psychologists Sigmund Freud, Alfred Adler, Paul Watzlawick, Hans Asperger and the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl are also widely known. Such economists as Joseph Schumpeter, Eugen von Bohmborg, Ludwig von Mises, Friedrich von Hayek made a contribution to development of the Austrian school of economy, which is one of the competing directions of the modern economic theory.
Now the Austrian Academy of Sciences, founded in 1847, is engaged in basic researches. The Institute of a Comparative Research of Behavior of K. Lawrence, the International Institute of the Applied System Analysis and others are its part.
In total in Austria about 2,200 scientific institutions in which about 25,000 people work. The state actively participates in the international scientific cooperation. On her account, more than 1,000 research drafts of the framework program of the EU.
Overwhelming part of works which usually carry to the Austrian literature is written in German, though, of course, in the territory of sacred Roman and Austro-Hungarian empires there lived the authors writing in other languages. Fra Eva in the early Middle Ages was the first poet writing in German. And the heroic epos usually carry to the German medieval literature, though many famous authors, for example, Walter von der Vogelweide, had a direct bearing on Austria.
In the 15th century, as well as in the whole Europe, in Austria defining there is literature of humanity, which brightest representative is Nikolai Kazansky, Brixen's bishop.
Baroque literature in the 17th century and educations in the 18th century didn't give world-famous names. Franz Grillparzer was the representative of the Romanticism, which came also influence of Biedermeier and Classicism in the Austrian literature in the first half of the 19th century. Adalbert Schäfter became the largest figure in literature of the Austrian Biedermeier. The realism and naturalism in literature of Austria is presented by Maury von Ebner-Eschenbach, Ferdinand von Saar, Ludwig Anson-Gruber and Peter Rosiger's names. However, really the Austrian literature reached world level at the beginning of the 20th century. Franz Kafka, Robert Musil, Stefan Zweig, Joseph Roth are among the most famous writers of this period.
Despite rich and niche history, the Austrian literature can brag only of one Nobel laureate. Elfriede Jelinek in 2004, according to the message of the Nobel Committee, became him. She got the award for musical modulations of voices and echoes in novels and plays which with extraordinary linguistic diligence disclose absurdity of social clichés and their enslaving force.
The Austrian art till the 18th century seldom separates from German, especially as advanced Bohemia entered the Austrian Empire. In the 18th century in Austria Baroque, which famous representatives were Johann Michael Rotmeyer, Martin van Matens and Franz Anton Malbrecht dominates.
In the first half of the 19th century, wide popularity in Europe, portraits and landscapes of Ferdinand Georg Waldmüller, representative of style, received Biedermeier.
Later Adalbert Schäfter's landscapes and historical cloths of Hans Mackart are allocated. Nevertheless, the Austrian art gained the world fame at a turn of the 20th century when Vienna, partly thanks to activity of the Vienna Secession, became one of the main centers. Three greatest Austrian artists of this period.
Gustav Klimt,
in modernist style. Egon Schiele and Oskar Kokoschka, Expressionism, each of which opened a new direction in the fine arts. After an Anschluss in 1938, their creativity, along with other artists of the beginning of the 20th century, was announced by degenerative and underwent prosecutions. Other Austrian artists of the first half of the 20th century, for example, Koloman Moser and Albin Egerlins, the sculptor Fritz Vertruber, are widely known. In the second half of the 20th century, the Vienna school of fantastic realism appeared, close to surrealism. Albert Paris of Gütersloh, and one of the brightest representatives, Edgar Jahn, was its founder. Distinguished Gottfried Helmvein and Arnulf Rainier from modern artists.
Friedrich Hundertwasser's creativity with his abstract decorative works is widely known.
Hundertwasser also brought a significant contribution to architecture, having decorated a set of the most ordinary buildings in bright colors. Austria is the homeland of many famous composers, such as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Joseph Haydn, Michael Haydn, Franz Schubert, Anton Bruckner, Johann Strauss Sr., Johann Strauss, and Gustav Mahler. Participants of the Second Vienna School, such as Arnold Schönberg, Anton Webern and Alban Berg, are also known. The most part of career of Mozart passed in Vienna. The composer Ludwig van Beethoven carried out the most part of the life in this city. The existing national anthem of Austria was written by Mozart and chosen after World War II, having replaced the previous anthem written by Joseph Haydn.
The country is also the homeland of the noticeable jazz musician, keyboard player Joseph Zawinul.
Pop and the rock musician Falco, world famous in the 1980s, was Austrian too. He was glorified by the Rock Me Amadeus song devoted to Mozart.
In 2014, the native of Austria Tom Neuwirth, under a female alter ego Conchita Wurst, became the winner of the Eurovision.
The ballet art in Austria arose in the 16th century when court representations with dances were arranged. Nemiclia Jacovici and Chach. Negri's Italians and also K. Beccaria S. and D. Ventura were the first dancing masters at the Vienna Yard. Horse ballets were put masquerades, dances joined in drama and opera performances. At the same time, vagrant troupes developed traditions of national dance.
From the middle of the 17th century, music to many dancing representations was written by the composer J.
Schmelzer. In the 1670th years, in the Vienna court troupe, which was headed by the composer A. Draghi, professional dancers appeared. At the beginning of the 20th century, ritmoplasticheski dance, which got the national forms, in particular in art of the sisters Wiesenthal, who were full waltzes, here extended. Among representatives of this direction, G. Bodenweiser, R. Hlodek are also called. In 1920, the 1930th years, in the Vienna State Opera ballet masters G. Krioler M. Valman, who put the popular ballet, The Austrian Country Wedding, worked. 5. Frenzel, renewing traditional Vienna ballets. The most famous actors of that era G. Pickler H. Fundmeyer M. Wackinger R. Rab A. Krausenecker, representatives of families Frenzel and Bergmeyer. In 1942-1958, Hanke was a ballet master of the Vienna State Opera. Under her management, the troupe experienced difficulties of military years. It created the repertoire of the first post-war decade, where mainly her statements entered. Over 60 ballets, many with music of the Austrian and German composers, Joan from Sarissa, Egge, the Venetian Mo, Blackera, Zacher Hotel, of Helmersberger in Schwankers Processing, and von Einam's Jellyfish. In 1940, the 1950th years 50. Templer E. Brexner 50. Breuer M. Bauer, the dancer R. Novotny were leaders, the dancer Bayou. Drappel. The troupe of the Vienna State Opera was headed D. Pilot. 1958-1961. A. Milos. 1963, 1966 and 1971-1974. And 5. Orlikovsky. 1966-71. In Vienna, ballets are also put in Volkspark Theater. In 1955-1972, the chief ballet master of D. Luck. And in Theater of Dervin. In 1967-1974, the ballet master A. Mitterkuber. Ballet troupes work also in the cities of Graz, Linz, Klagenfurt, Salzburg, etc. The main ballet school functions at the Vienna State Opera from 1768 years. The school I had also Luck. In Luxembourg under the leadership of R. Plodic, the branch of dancing school E works. Jacques Docras. Among researchers of the ballet F. Dara Di Maroda, the author of books and textbooks about dance. In 1952-1967 I had the school. Among critics there are G. Brunner 50. G. Schuler A. Oberkhauser. Since the 11th, 12th centuries in the Austrian monasteries and abbeys mysteries and liturgical dramas were put. The Austrian theatre begins to be formed in the 16th century since formation of the multinational Austrian state.
In the 16th century across Austria, the uncountable vagrant theatrical companies doing comic sketches, acrobatic and dancing turns move.
Sketches for numbers of actors were written by 5. Schmelzel.
At a turn of the 16th and 17th centuries there were theaters at the Jesuit boards propagandizing humility of church and to the emperor.
In statements, the equipment of the Italian theater was often used. In the 17th century, art of Italy had a huge impact on the Austrian theater. Scenarios of the Italian masters helped to improve creations of actors of vagrant theaters. The performance, Winning Piety, of Avancinus was presented in Vienna in 1659.
The performance differed in abundance of outer effects and beauty of a show.
In 1712, in Vienna, the first stationary theater was created. Experience of the German folk theatre and the Italian comedy was used for statement of performances, having established the principle of improvisation on the stage.
At the end of the 18th century, in suburbs of Vienna, new theatres open.
Leopoldstadt in 1781, Josefstadt in 1788, Wiedenertiet in 1787. W.A.
Mozart and 1.
Haydn's operas, nightly dramas, children's ballets were staged in these theatres. In 1741 in Vienna the Royal Court Theatre, which received the name Burgtheater, opened.
At the beginning of the 19th century, development of theatres in the small towns of Austria began.
The huge contribution to it was made by F.
Raymond and 1.
Nestor. They created an own genre of the national comedy and became father to advanced development of traditions of democratic theatre. In the 1920th years in creative activity of Burgtheater there is a rise. The actor and the director A. Hein directs theatre. During Hitlerite occupation the former figures of the Austrian culture suffered persecution. Most theatres was closed and destroyed. After liberation of Austria by the Soviet troops, fight for cultural independence began. In most theatres works of foreign classics, including the Russian, are put. In Burgtheater, Woe from Wit, Calypso, Edgar Bulihov and others, Nathan the Wise, were put.
In 2009 in Vienna there took place the Festival of the Russian Cinema, Days of the Russian Cinema in Austria and Slovakia.
The president of Golden Hero Fund, Nikolai Berlyev, headed the Russian delegation. In Vienna movies, Ivanovo Childhood, Andrei Rublev, Lermontov were presented and also creative thematic meetings took place. From buildings in Romance style in Austria only temples remained. For example, Ruprechtskirche Church in Vienna. Gothic forms are embodied in constructions of an award of Cistercians, the Gushing Pavilion in the monastery Heiligenkreuz.
Among masterpieces of a Gothic style there is St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna.
The Renaissance in Austria is connected with activity of the Emperor Maximilian I, the patron of artists, among whom Albrecht Dürer, who created sketches of bronze figures at Maximilian tomb in Innsbruck. Secular buildings of Renaissance. Houses in Klagenfurt, the Locke portion in Spitala, Fortress Hochösterwitz in Carinthia. In style of classical Baroque many palaces and temples in Vienna, Salzburg, Graz are built. The most famous representatives of Baroque: Joseph Mungenest, monastic church in Dernstein; Jacob Prantauer, the monastery in Melka; Johann Bernhard Fischer von Erlach, National Library in Vienna; and Lacas von Hildebrandt, Lux Mirabell Plums in Salzburg and the Belvedere in Vienna. The whole town of Baden near Vienna kept identity of style of the master of classicism Joseph Kornschüssel. His style of historicism was attempt after shocks of 1848 to lean on the past and to show empire force by means of monumental buildings, for example, on the Ringstrasse highway in Vienna. Half a century later, adherents of a succession under the motto Time His Art. Throughout his freedom, supported delimitation with conservative academic circles. Representatives of various spheres of art closely cooperated in this Austrian manifestation of modernist style among themselves. The painter Gustav Klimt and architects Otto Wagner and Joseph Maria Olbrich were leaders of the movement. The special color is created by buildings of postmodern style with which the central part of Vienna is rich.
Among constructions of modern architecture there is a building of the International Agency on Nuclear Power.
IA. Vienna International Center in Vienna. Austrian cuisine throughout centuries adheres to traditions of noble kitchen, which is famous for the well-balanced beef and pork dishes with various vegetables. There is also a bakery of Mehlspeisen, which bakes cakes with cream and various pastries. The donuts filled with apricot fruit jelly or cream and also apple strudel are considered as traditional dishes. Their neighbors had a special impact on formation of Austrian cuisine. Hungary, Czech Republic, Italy and Balkans. Favorite drink of the Austrians is beer. The largest news agency, the Austrian News Agency. Austria Presseagentur AG are among the major periodicals. Wiener Zeitung. Official body of the government, Bundesfuhr Republik Österreich. Bundeslied für die Republik Österreich. The Bulletin of Laws, Oberösterreichischer Volksblatt. Oberösterreichisches Volksblatt.
Body of the Upper Austria Land Organization of the Austrian People's Party, Arbeiterzeitung. Arbeiterzeitung.
Body the Social Democratic Party of Austria. Volksstimme. Volksstimme. Body of the Communist Party of Austria. Broadcasting was conducted since 1924, telecast since 1956.
Till 2011 telecasts were hosted by the State Television Center, the Austrian Radio and Television.
ERF. According to two programs. ORF 2 and ORF 1. In the large cities according to the third program, the commercial television station of AT, and in Vienna also according to the fourth program, commercial television station of Puls TV conducted transfers. Since 2011 telecasts go on the first. Includes the first, second programs and the AT program. And the second. Includes the cultural and educational, sports Austrian radio programs, Freesat, the Puls 4 program and the program of television station of Service TV and also the international program Freesat. 2 bouquets of programs, in the large cities on 3 bouquets of programs of Germany are relayed. Public service, Austrian radio and television, conducts broadcasting according to 9 land and 2 nationwide programs.
Einheit Radio.
In the large cities of ERF broadcasts the 4th program. FM. Some more programs broadcast private radio stations, nationwide Kronahit and Life Radio and Land, N10 Steiermark, N10 Kärnten, N10 Salzburg, N10 Vorarlberg, N10 Tyrol, Radio 88.6. The most popular sport in Austria is the mountain skiing. The Austrians the most successful mountain skiers in the history of the Olympic Games. 105 awards. And the World Cups. In mountain skiing the Austrians won more awards at the Olympic Games than in all summer sports combined. Also successfully the Austrians act in ski jumping. For all history the Austrians have only won more than 2 gold awards at the Summer Olympic Games. In 1936 in Berlin. In 2012 in London, Austria for the first time since 1964 didn't manage to win any medal at Games. Innsbruck was the capital of the Winter Olympic Games twice in 1964 and 1976. The Soccer Championship of Austria takes place since 1912. The Cup of Austria is held since 1913. The main football association in Austria is the Austrian Football Union, consists of 8 land football unions.
In 2008, Austria, in common with Switzerland, hosted the European Football Championship, which final took place in Vienna.
The citizen of the Austrian Empire Wilhelm Steini was the first world champion in chess. In the mid-90s, the tennis player Thomas Muster for 6 weeks was the first racket of the world.
New Year on January 1.
Epiphany on January 6. Saint Joseph on March 19. Good Friday. Easter. 2 days. Easter Monday. Easter plus 1 day. Staatsfeiertag. Labor Day. On May 1. Florian 4 of May. Ascension. Easter plus 39 days. Troitsks Monday. Easter plus 50 days. Holiday of the Body and Christoph Blood. Easter plus 60 days. Assumption of the Mother of God on August 15. Rupert on September 24. Day of a referendum on October 10. National holiday on October 26. All Saints' Day on November 1. Martin of Tours on November 11. Leopold on November 15. Immaculate Conception of Virgin Mary on December 8. Christmas Eve on December 24. Christmas on December 25. Day of St. Stephen on December 26. Day of Saint Sylvester on December 31.
Austria is carried to the Alpine tourist district of the Western European area of Europe, as the most part of the territory of the country is covered by the Alps.
Austria, the country of traditional winter tourism. Along with Switzerland, this country is some kind of alpine skiing mecca for Europeans. Today, for the country, tourism is the main source of income, covering traditionally negative trade balance. 350,000 people are employed in this industry in 70,000 medium-sized and small tourist enterprises. Hotels, restaurants, resort, medical institutions, pools and beaches. On the specific weight of gross receipts from tourism in DDD, more than 6%. The state occupies one of the leading places in the world, and on income from the tourist sector of economies of the small countries of Europe strongly holds the leading positions. In Austria, the system of service of tourists is created and debugged long ago. Many towns and villages, such as Bad Gastein, Millstatt, Ischgl, Sankt Anton am Arlberg and Merkhofen, turned into the largest European resorts, and the former villagers are engaged in hotel business. Alpine skiing tourism changed the Austrians. Today for them it is life and hope for the future. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.